Welcome back to Aliyah Yomi. Today we're going to be learning Tzav Sheni, the second Aliyah in Parshas Tzav. The topic of our Aliyah is the Chatas and the Asham in action, the sin offering and the guilt offering in action. So our Aliyah is built out of three basic paragraphs. The first paragraph describes the korban of Aaron and his children, and this is the one that's brought on the day of their anointing. It is a mincha, following on from the previous aliyah. It is a meal offering. We hear about half of it being brought in the morning, half of it being brought in the evening. It's al machabas on this pan. It's murbeches. We hear all the different parts to how it's fried, it's cooked, all the different pieces that exist of this. And the minchas kohen is kolil takutia goloise achel, is completely burnt. Fine, that's the first paragraph. The second paragraph is the Torah Chatas, the way that the sin offering is brought, and we're told that it's shechted, it is slaughtered in the same place that the olah is sacrificed, the burnt offering is sacrificed, and the kohen who facilitates this will eat part of it. In the oil moed, but anything that touches its meat will become holy. And anything which, let's say, the meat or the blood which lands on clothing, that clothing will become holy. And let's say it touched a pot. The pot either has to be morak v'shutaf, it has to be cleansed and washed, or it has to be broken if it's a earthenware vessel. Okay, so we hear about the korban chatas. Then we hear about the Chatas And Asham, the way that the guilt offering works. Again, it is sacrificed in the place where the olah is sacrificed, the burnt offering, and we hear about the sprinkling of its blood. We hear about what's done with the fat, with the tail, with all the different parts of the korban and how it's brought up. And we hear that the or ha'olah asher ikriv lakohen lo yeh. At the end of this paragraph, we hear that the skin of the burnt offering is the only real surviving part, and that belongs to the kohen. And we also hear about the mincha, which is ba'al b'marcheshes and machavas. We talk about how the kohen has a part of those particular cooked or fried menachas at the end of this paragraph. Very interesting aliyah. It's 22 psukim long, ranging from Perek Vav pasuk Yud Beis to pasuk Perek Zayin pasuk Yud. A few basics to understand in our aliyah. Number one is, what kind of mincha is this at the beginning of the aliyah? What's this mincha all about? So the Rashbam explains that this sounds like from the text that it's the one that refers to that when the Kohen Gadol is anointed, this is what happens. However, Chazal explain that it's also a regular Kohen when he's anointed also brings it. So that means to say that it is not just upon the Kohen Gadol, it's also the regular Kohanim, and the Kohen Gadol actually has the possibility of bringing it every day as well. Another question: why is the mincha of the Kohanim during their anointing mentioned? Why is this? It seems like such a once-off time. So Ramban says that if you look at the order of Parshas Vayikra, it goes as follows. It goes Ola mincha shlamim chatas asham. So that is the burnt offering, the meal offering, the peace offering, the sin offering, and the guilt offering. That's the order of Parshas Vayikra. And that essentially is moving from optional korbanos to obligatory korbanos. So when a person sins, they have to bring a korban. A person does not need to bring an olah in many circumstances. A personal olah, that's a voluntary korban. So the way that Vayikra is established is voluntary first, obligatory second. But here in Parshas Tzav, the way it's organized is olah mincha chatas asham shlamim, which is burnt offering, meal offering, sin offering, guilt offering, and peace offering. So the way the idea of structure over here is, it begins with kodshei kedoshim, which is the holy of holy the meats and karbonas, and then it moves into that which is kodshim kalem, more like the shlamim as well. So it's a different system of organization which helps us understand a little bit of the order and the structure over here as well. Just remembering that it's not random details. This is a very clear and precise perspective. Now, why are we learning about this new about the chatas? What new is the repetition of the chatas coming to teach us? So Ramban says that one of the things we learn over here is that the shechting, the slaughtering of the chatas, is all in the same place. That all the korbanos of the chatas are shechted in the same place, even though that wasn't clear from Parshas Vayikra as well. What are we learning new about the asham that it's repeated here? So even as it says, the treatment of the fats over here are described in such a way that we did not hear about them in Parshas Vayikra. So that's one of the additional details, going back to the idea of the Kohanim requiring this extra memorandum as to how to do things in Parshas Tzav. Now, why is the chatas and the asham slaughtered in the same place as the olah? Why is it that it goes out its way to tell us that in the same place you sacrifice the olah is where you sacrifice the chatas and the asham? Explains the Yerushalmi in Yevamos and Perek Ches Halacha Gimel. and that is it's to avoid embarrassing those who might need a korban chatas or asham. Meaning, think about this for a second. A person comes to the Beis Hamikdash, and they did something really not so good. But they come to the Beis Hamikdash, and everybody's watching them, everybody knows, they see they're checking in, and they got the animal and the whole business. But the way the Torah organizes it is that the person does it in the same place where a korban olah, which is a voluntary sacrifice, is brought, and that's not deemed quite as severe as much of an issue. So from a person from watching from afar has no idea as to what really is going on. In fact, Rav Sorotskin takes it one step further to say that part of what's implicit in the words over here is that the kohen, who essentially is hearing the vidui. This is not the confessional Christian religion, where somebody's giving you a free card. This is where the kohen has to overhear the person doing the smicha and the vidui on the korban, and thereby he, in a certain sense, holds dear to them very private, very discretionary information about their lives. And part of the placement of where the korban goes is also the discretion with which the kohen has to treat the person as well. Is that in the future they have to look at this person and not tell anybody else, and they'll not release any of those important details of their lives as well. Now the question is what is the language of Zois Torah? This is the Torah of. This is the Torah of. So the Gemara in Menachos Daf Kuf Yud tells us that a person who learns the Torah, meaning literally the teachings of the Olah, it's as if they brought the korbanos themselves. Meaning to say it's not just about the doing in a time and stage like we are found in right now, of where we live in an age where we're not able to do korbanos. If we learn Zos Torah, the actual Torah, the learning itself, that is a huge part of the actual performance as well, and what we're able to access today. Finally, one last question is, what's this business about the kalim in our aliyah? We hear about if a vessel has to be purified and washed and the whole business. What's really going on over here? What's important here? So Rav Soloveitchik points out that we always lay in Tzav just before Pesach. In a Shana Mu'uberes, in a leap year, it's a little earlier before Pesach, but in a regular year, it's really literally the Parsha just before Pesach as well. He says perhaps the connection is this very idea, and that is that when it comes to Pesach, and certainly today we live in an age where we have Pesach kitchens and Pesach dishes, and in the good old years, which was everything up to basically the last century maybe, in luxury, most Jews most of the time had one set of dishes, and they had to convert those set of dishes from their non-Pesach to their Pesach equipment, and that was the way it would work. And that I mean to say is that part of the lessons we learned, the ideas of how to do that conversion, is learned in our aliyah as well. And that is, there's a notion of what's called merika, and there's shtifa. Merika is the process where it's not enough just to clean the object. So let's say I have a chametz dika pot, or in this case in our aliyah, the topic is it was used to cook, let's say, the shlamim. So in the chatas. So in that case, there's going to be particles in it which are going to be nosar, they're going to be left over, that's not good. Or for Pesach, there'll be chametz on Pesach, and there are particles in the actual walls of the container. It's not enough just to clean it. One needs to actually dip it into boiling water, which will be one way of cleansing it, what's called hagala, or in the Torah's terms, merika. Thereafterwards needs shtifa, which is washing it, or a preliminary washing again after that process happened. According to many poskim, that might also be necessary for Pesach as well, where the shtifa is required, as machlokes rishonim. This typically learns from our aliyah, and perhaps that's one of the connections to Pesach. With this, we close the second aliyah in Parshas Tzav. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.